more than a week out from opening up our season. We'll open up at a tournament in DeLand, Florida. We'll play Stetson Friday, Manhattan Saturday, Sam Houston Sunday. We feel pretty good about being prepared and ready for that. We're kind of cleaning up some small little injuries that hopefully will be good to go by next week. We've played probably about 7 inter-squad games so far. We've been lucky enough to have some mild weather recently. And, I mean, if all goes well, we should be, pretty well and 100% prepared for next Friday. We have a lot of new faces on our roster. We have a total of 20 new guys on our roster. A good chunk of them are pitchers. So we feel pretty good about our depth versus where we were at this point last year. I'd say at this point we're about where we'd want to be, and we look forward to starting the season.
Coach, you mentioned all the new faces this year, and over half the roster is new faces. What is
kind
of the challenge with that and getting a lot of new guys to gel together?
Well, you really have to be patient with it. As much as a coach, as much as you want to just have things go 100% the way you have them on paper to go, it doesn't always work that way, especially when you're talking about integrating 9 new pitchers, all of which should be in the mix of pitching when it matters, whatever role that might be. So you really have to kind of be patient with these guys, they've gone through a fall with us and now a preseason with us. And last weekend we started to define kind of more solid roles as far as starters, relievers kind of thing. We have one more round of inter-squad games. I always would wish we had more time, but we don't. A lot of it's a little bit of trial and error early on as far as developing guys in those roles, specifically pitchers. But you just got to be patient with guys. There's a lot of things in this game that you can't rush. And when you have a lot of new guys, there's just a lot of game experience that they need, where they're playing against other people, not just in inter-squad games against their teammates.
And how much are you leaning on your veterans to help kind of show the guys the ropes as you get ready for the season?
Well, I think all good programs have, some good older guys that can do that. I'd say we're probably leaning on that maybe a little bit more than usual, just because we have a lot of new guys, and veteran-wise, we're probably looking at about 5 or 6 guys in particular that can do that, and I think they've done a good job with that. It can be, I think, a little bit overwhelming to those guys just because of the numbers. But I mean, when you have a coaching change, that's kind of normally what happens. I think regardless of sport, we've been lucky enough where we haven't had, knock on wood, any dramatic injuries that were season-ending thus far, and I hope that continues. But we just feel pretty good about the leadership in general, the health in general, and the amount of time we've been able to spend with these guys to prepare them for next week and beyond that.
Coach, can you speak to going the junior college route to restock the roster a little bit? I know sometimes that can be a double-edged sword if guys are only here for 1 year.
We had a good – you probably think we have like 9 new junior college guys on the team this year, which we kind of figured usually in the first year we needed a little bit of an influx of talent to come into the program to kind of give us some depth. You can't ask a ton of high school guys to come into a league like the ACC and kind of hit the ground and be a major guy right out of the gate. Some guys can handle that, some guys can't. So at least in this first recruiting class, we need a little bit of a mix of transfer guys and true freshmen. In the future recruiting classes, you'll see it probably will not be that way. But right now, that's kind of the way we had to go in order to get it where we wanted to get it as quick as possible. So.
Yoder is a guy that has showed a lot of promise, but has been kind of struck by injuries past couple of years.
Yeah.
What is kind of his ceiling this year? Where do you think he can go this year?
Well, he's healthy, number one. Number two, I don't know the answer to that question, just because he's pitched probably a handful of times in the preseason. He had another handful of outings in the fall. He needs to pitch. He just needs to pitch as much as possible. And, I mean, certainly he's going to get that opportunity. It's just really a matter of what he does with it, just like any one of our other players, really. He certainly has enough ability to be a quality ACC arm. There's no doubt about that. It's just a matter of kind of what role he kind of fits into. And I think a little bit of that is well, a lot of it's dictated by how well he's able to get, what kind of start he gets off to. But I think a little bit of that also is affected by how other pitchers' beginnings go. I think he'll certainly get a good sized opportunity, just like a lot of the other veteran arms that we have. But I think that, depending on how some other guys do, might extend his opportunity or not so much. But I can tell you that he'll get every opportunity in the world to go out and do his thing as he has, and we feel pretty good about him now being healthy and having just as much talent as anybody that we have on the mound.
Coach, and I know when we talked at baseball night last year, you talked about adding depth to the team and
Right.
giving you a little more comfortability as you get into the postseason run.
Yeah.
How is that going so far, and to watch the dynamics of the team come together?
I mean, I think it's going good. We have. Every coach is going to be optimistic this time of the year. Obviously, I mean, unless you have major injuries or major subtractions by academics or something like that. We were lucky enough not to have any of that stuff. I think the majority of the roster that we had in the fall, at the beginning of the fall, is intact. They've done well academically. They've progressed really well. I think after this last round of inter-squad games, which will go Thursday through Monday, with an off day on Sunday, I think our guys will be pretty much well ready to play against somebody else and see what it's going to look like when we're playing someone that doesn't have maroon and orange on, for a lot of different reasons. And honestly, this time of the year, every year, as a coach, you're saying the same thing. We need to get through this last round of games, establish, kind of cement some roles, at least for the first weekend, and the roles can always change. And let's just kind of roll it out there and see how it goes at the beginning here. Because in baseball, you play a whole fall. You have a full month of preseason, which will end this next week. So you're talking about a good 3 to 4 months of work before you actually go out there and play someone else in a game that matters. And I think that time is coming for us like it is for a lot of other teams in the country now. So.
What are you looking forward to most about your guys, getting down to Florida in that first game of the season?
I think our staff is just kind of looking to see, are all these conversations we have and the roles we put guys in and all the preparation, how right are we here with this? Because when you're dealing with so many, I say that kiddingly, but when you're dealing with so many new guys and you're playing a challenging schedule like we are, you try to forecast your near future and your distant future, but you really don't know for 100% sure. I think, like any coach would say, exactly what it's going to look like until you go out there and you go starter 1, starter 2, starter 3, starter 4, and relievers and position players. You need to see what it looks like against somebody else. But I don't think our staff would change a whole lot of what we've done and all the preparation we've done since August and the recruiting decisions we made. Right now we feel pretty good about it, so let's tee it up and see what it looks like.
Seniors on the team. Has any one of them specifically kind of taken the role this year as the vocal guy on that team to really get the team going?
Well, I think Luke Horansky, our catcher, he's always kind of a louder guy. He plays that position where you need a lot of leadership from. I would say if you're going to say one guy, he might be the guy. But really, with the two Owenses up the middle, Mencken in center field, Scherzer, a 6th-year senior who's really – those guys have all really had good – lead-ups to our season. Now, Mencken's the only guy that's really, had a major injury, and I don't know that he'll be ready to play the first weekend, but hopefully time after that he will be. But I guess, vocally a guy like Luke would be, but I think all 6 of those guys have done a very good job in their own right of providing good guidance for guys, whether it's loud or whether it's quiet, whether it's behind closed doors. I know Nick Owens is very good at that, but he's not this loud guy that's going to jump around and scream and yell at people or be positive with a loud voice of people. That's just not his thing. So everybody's got a different way of doing things. You just got to respect it and let them work,
How nice is it adding so many pitchers this year, knowing that you have some comfort when you get into those longer games that you have some guys that can help you?
It's good having depth. We really didn't have that on the mound last year. Certainly not as a starting roles. So you know, we just feel pretty good about having a lot of different guys that can pitch, as I would always say, when it matters. We do have a good chunk of, I want to say, a dozen games before we get into ACC play, which will help us kind of define some more roles. We'll certainly hit some pitfalls in those 10 games, and it's just a matter of what kind of decisions you make and how guys respond to those down times, you know. And we need to see that before we start getting into ACC play.